This week's Parsha, the Pasuk talks about that Betzalel was the one that fashioned the Aron. Vayas Betzalel is the Aron. Betzalel is the one that created the ark. The name Betzalel comes from the word Tzel Kel. The Tzel means the shadow, the image of Kel, of Hashem. And the name of Betzalel is that his name represents that he was created, or he was connected to a particular prototype that's a Tzel, a shadow of Kel. Says the Medrash Tanchuma writes on this, B'shvil shesham tzila shel Kadosh Baruch Hu ben shnei hakruvim. Because the greatness of Betzalel, that he was not just a physical architect of a piece of a piece of furniture, but Betzalel created the ark, he created the Aron, and he was able to place between the Aron, through his ingenuity and through his creativity, he was able to place the Tzel of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, sort of the shadow, the energy of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of Hashem, between the two keruvim, ben shnei hakruvim, between the two cherubs. So there's a teaching on this particular medrash from the Baal Shem Tov. It's not only a teaching, but it's an idea, a way of living. The teaching that is brought down is a story that there was once someone came to the Baal Shem Tov and showed him a particular vase. And the Baal Shem looked at the vase and he said that when I look at this kli, this vase, I see that the person, the architect, or the creator of this vase was someone that lacked feet. His feet were injured, or he was crippled, that there's a particular issue with his feet. And then later, this person, the student that was holding this bowl, placed the bowl on the table, and when he placed the bowl on the table, the feet, the legs of the bowl, or like this little stand that the bowl was put in, fell apart, and the vase broke, and the bowl broke. What does this mean? It means that every single thing that we do in this world, not only our thoughts that we have and the words that we speak, but even the actions that we do, there's a relationship between the consciousness of a person and the actions that he does. So not only the person says a certain thing or thinks a certain thought, but also by creating something, and particularly by being creative, creating a particular an object, we put our creativity into the objects that we create. And not only put our creativities in the object, we put part of ourselves into the objects. And it's brought down in the name of the Baal Shem that the Baal Shem was able to look at an object or an idea and see the koyach hapoel. He was able to see the person that created all the thoughts and all the words and all the actions of the person that created this particular object, this specific object. So what this really means, and this is certainly with regards to creativity, when a person composes music, a person creates a piece of art, a person writes a novel, someone has a creativity, someone creates something. When they're creating something, they're not only putting their physical actions into place, then they're creating something with their hands, and they have dexterity in their hands, and they can create this beautiful fashioned sculpture or this beautiful painting. But when they're painting or they're creating music or they're sculpting, they're putting a part of their own consciousness, a part of themselves, into this object. So depending on the person who created this object, at the moment that they created the object, if the person was a person that had clean thoughts, holy thoughts, a person that has refined manners of speech, a person that's careful in their actions, and this person at that moment when they're created this thought in this more pristine and holy manner, then the object that they created is also will be a reflection who they are. And therefore we are the recipients of that creativity. Now, not every person is sensitive enough to hear a piece of music that was composed by, let's say, a wonderful composer, someone that has tremendous talents, musical talents. Not everyone is sensitive enough, like the Baal Shem Tov, on that level, to hear in the music, to hear what the person thought that day, what the person's words are those days, what the person's actions are those days. But in everything that we hear, let's say we're talking about music, we do pick up the person's energy. When you listen to a person's music, someone that composed music, we're not just listening to the composition of the music, we're listening to the person being expressed in this music. Or we're looking at a piece of art, or any type of creativity that was, especially creativity when a person puts themselves into their art. When we're appreciating this art, we're not only appreciating the artist is dead and we're just looking at the object itself, but the artist is a reflection of the art is a reflection of the artist, and the artist's essence is being expressed through this art. And therefore, when we're receiving that art, we're opening ourselves up to not only receive the artistic expression of that person, but to actually also imbibe, to internalize that entire consciousness of the person, all the person's thoughts and all the person's actions and all the person's words. We are internalizing the completion, the fullness of that person through that art. So let's say a person listens to some wonderful piece of music, and the composer of this music is maybe very musically gifted, but is a nasty person, not a good person, has terrible thoughts, says terrible things, does horrible actions, but composes beautiful music. And you say, okay, I just want to listen to the music itself. I just want to appreciate the music, and it's bringing me great joy. No, this is what the Baal Shem Tov is saying, that when you listen to this music, you're connecting yourself. You're making a yichud not only with the music, but with the artist, with the musician himself or herself. You're connecting with the person that created that music. And therefore, if you connect with that person, you have to know, are you willing to connect with that person? So it's not just an issue of in any forms of art, if it's music or it's the fine arts or sculpture, whatever form of art or expression, it's not just the issue on its own. I like this music, and therefore I want to listen to this music. It lifts me. It's good for me. That's not only the question. It's not only the question of the music itself. The question is who composed the music, because according to the music will be imbued with the composer. And when you're listening to the music of a person that's not necessarily a good person, or even a nasty person, when you're listening to the music, you're connecting with them, and you're internalizing their nastiness or their negativity. And that's why sometimes people walk around and they have they're feeling down, or they're feeling depressed, or they're feeling negative about life or about themselves, or they're having sveikas, they're having doubts in their faith, or general struggle, and they're wondering why. Because on a conscious level, they're doing everything correct, and they're focused, and they're praying, and they're davening, and they're learning, and they're doing the mitzvahs, they're doing everything they have to do in this world, but somehow they're not feeling it. So then you have to ask yourself the question, are you taking in any other intake that is maybe subliminal and you're not really conscious of it, but you're really internalizing that type of energy? Maybe it's you're watching something, you're seeing certain imagery, you're listening to particular types of music, you're opening yourself up to certain types of artful expressions, and it's not in the art in itself that's the problem, but the problem is the person that created that art, the person that put himself into that art. So we have to be open and subtly aware of all the intake that we take in this world, as much as we can, of course. Otherwise, we have other processes how to rid ourselves from that or protect ourselves from that. But as much as consciously we are aware, to make sure that whatever we're taking in imagery or in sound, and any types of impressions that we're taking in, we have to make sure that it's coming, not only is in itself a holy image and a positive image and a productive image, and not only in musically is it pleasant to you, is it moving you, but is there someone that created that types of imagery that's not someone that's necessarily that we're connected to? Because if you do listen to those music, you open yourself up to listening to these types of music, these types of imagery, even if consciously there's nothing wrong with that, you're connecting with a wrong way of thinking, a wrong way of acting, a wrong way of doing, because you're connecting your energy with the person that is doing that. Now the greatness, what Baal Shem Tov was teaching, the greatness of B'tzalel was that he was connected to Tzalkel. He was an image of Hashem. He was a reflection of Hashem. He was a shadow of God, so to speak. And because of that high level of spirituality that B'tzalel lived, his expressions, what he created, the ark that he was gifted and in charge of fashioning, that ark that he created was the place that Hashem's presence rested, because he himself in the nefesh and his own self was a place that Hashem rested, and therefore his expressions and the way in his creation, the arks that he created, the aron that he created, was also a place where the Shekhinah was able to rest and the Divine Presence was able to rest. And this is something we have to learn and think about very deeply in terms of our entire practice, how we live our lives. Da